question, an amazing lineup of CEOs, founders, and experts. This is Marketing for the Now.
Super excited.
Can you hear me? You're 50 yet.
Thank you so much.
That made me feel.
Thanks for having me.
I love how vulnerable Eliza for your back.
So glad to be
You real
Marketing for Now.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Can we still say that or not?
I say it until February 1st.
Okay. All right. Then we got that. I love that. Whatever was going on out there in the pit. What was that? What was that?
There's always so much chaos. Now that I'm live streaming on Twitch, and there's just always stuff going on, Andre. Because
on Monday.
We're always evolving and progressing. Look at your title there.
Look at me and my fancy title. This is so exciting. By the way, I was on that recording on Monday where you're reaching out to all the Instagram guys, telling them to get the fuck over to Twitch right now.
That's exactly right. We're actually, it's really fun. Unlocking creators and culture. Obviously, we'll go into it, but let me just make this statement for everybody. Live streaming. This is the year of live streaming. TikTok Shop, TikTok Live, Twitch. Even if you're doing what I'm doing, I'm literally Twitch streaming in my office all day. 90% of it has no audio.
Whoa.
But it's like background ASMR for entrepreneurs and executives. I unmute at times and say, what's up? We do random fun stuff. And for me, obviously where I'm at, hundreds and hundreds of people watch that, which is not thousands of thousands and tens of thousands like I'm normal, because of course it's can only be so compelling if it's on mute. But the same can be said for everybody else. That maybe 6 people watch you or 12 people watch you, but you build from that. And then obviously people, I wish I was doing this when I was building Wine Library. I'd be unmuted the whole time and I would be streaming for 12 hours a day. I think live stream shopping, it's the rave. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, and it's cool how you were talking about how there's so many people that are working from home and they can just have it sort of on, and that there's all kinds of use cases now that are so different from before. And, super fired up that this topic is a really great one to kick off the year with. And we're hearing from tons of brands, the different experiments that they have and how they're looking at who creators actually are and trying to bring in their consumers and their customers in all kinds of different ways, and all the changes on the platforms as well, right? So lots of cool stuff today, that's for sure.
It's going to be a great show. I also want to say for everybody who's watching, who's either a CMO or a senior executive or an entrepreneur with, let's say, a business doing 10 million in revenue a year, so big business or more. Obviously, you see Andrea's new title. We are up to something. You'll be hearing a lot more from me and us. But if you fit that profile, especially the 10 million a year or more revenue businesses, I think what we're up to, me, you, James Orsini, we've got something pretty profound coming from VaynerX, and I'm really proud of you and excited, Andrea.
Well, thank you. I couldn't be more fired up, especially hitting 2024. It's going to be a big year across the board, but it feels like there's a huge opportunity to bring our communities together. And we've got so much firepower, whether it's with entrepreneurs or Fortune 500, and not just the C-suite, but all those that are on the rise in their community, in their careers, how we can help everybody out, and learning about things like this. What's the latest in marketing, but also how can we be happy while we're growing our careers? And that's something that
the only way to grow something sustainably is to be good emotionally yourself.
That's right. Yeah. How can we learn to love ourselves and create cultures that aren't all based on fear, right? And a lot of the big ones, that's what they unfortunately really thrive on.
I think that's right. Anyway, creators and cultures, my final part before I let you take over the show. Relevance is the biggest opportunity for every business. If something's relevant to them, then they consider to buy it. And many people are missing the mark on relevance. And I think popular culture, pop culture, and creators only live on relevance. They don't have as much awareness yet. They're building, but they win on relevance. This is a topic every marketer who tunes in for Marketing Now should understand. And I think we have a crazy lineup, and I'm excited for the show.
It's going to be good. Gary, just one question for you though. Like as you're looking at the work that we do, and every brand wants to bring creators in, right? But it feels like the dynamic and how do you get the best out of a relationship with a creator? Are there any things that you think people should be mindful of?
Yeah, I mean, you have to give them complete freedom, and every brand doesn't want to do that. If you don't like what they're going to do, then you don't have to pay them and you can cancel it. But you've got to let them have freedom because they built their audience by knowing their audience and they know what will be authentic, and your brand doesn't want to be associated with them anyway if they mail it in. That's what a bad influencer is. So the one thing I would say to everybody is you got to let go. Your brand is not in control with you to begin with now. Go search your brand on Instagram and TikTok right now. You're in control anyway. So let someone who you've chosen make it relevant. And if you don't like where they're going with it, you don't have to have it posted or go out, but you got to give them 100% creative freedom.
And what about on the platform side? You've got your book that's upcoming, Under Price Attention. What are you seeing now? Any tips or things that people should be thinking about?
Yeah, like when I think about the new book, Day Trading Attention, I think about its platform and its culture. Obviously, we'll talk about culture here, but to your point, platform. Why does live streaming matter to me? Why are images with certain fonts working on Instagram? Why do the first 3 seconds of this have to be like that on Facebook? So creative strategy, the science around the art, is the next frontier of battling for organic reach, brand awareness, relevance, and occasional virality. And I'm obsessed with all of it. And so to answer your question, like of the second, images are over-indexing on Instagram again in a way that's interesting. Green screen videos, so taking an image and then being a human talking over it, continues to over-index the baseline of organic reach. Those 2 things stand out. All right, they're calling me over. I got to go. Do your show.
Love you.
Love you.
All right, it's time to bring up Mima Johnson. Mima, where are you?
Hello.
There she is.
Happy Thursday.
Well, happy Thursday. And I hear you're calling in live from Long Island City. Is that
I'm
right?
here in our fabulous studio in Long Island City. We got we're shooting some fun video stuff over here.
Oh my goodness. Well,
We'll
Mima
talk
is
about it now, but it's coming.
Okay, sounds good. We'll keep mom's word. Mima is one of my absolute faves. She is SVP of Creative Excellence, does just stellar work, and very excited to bring up our first guest today, Ashley Cole. She's the VP, and this is a title. This is a title, Ashley. Content Strategy, Development, and Distribution at Visa. And just amazing. And she's an award-winning global content and media leader. And she's got quite the history, both in finance as well as in tech, having come from Intel, Microsoft, and Charles Schwab. We're so fired up to have you on the show, Ashley. Take it away, you guys.
Good to see
Love
you.
it.
How are you?
Ashley, I'm great. It's so nice to talk to you. And just so everybody who's watching knows, Ashley is not only a super experienced and talented marketer, she's also one of the most lovely people you'll ever meet. So please reach out and say hello. And she's an incredible creative partner. But I'm so glad that you're joining us today as we talk about unlocking creators and culture. And I think for you, you have such a unique take because you've worked in the financial part of marketing for so long. So I'd love for you to kick us off as the first guest on Marketing for the Now and the New Year. If you could just talk a little bit about the role that creators play, not just in culture, but in driving the economy, and really why that's so important for Visa.
Yeah. So happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm very passionate about talking about creators, not because we've nailed it, but because I think it's such an interesting part of the marketing ecosystem for us right now. And so thank you for having me. Well, why does Visa care is a good question, or why do I care even as a marketer? And I think the key thing I think about is like all of this wonderful creativity and all this creativity that's in platforms. And Gary just talked about Twitch, which is incredible, that live streaming. Live is huge. Events are huge. We can talk about that more. But I think one of the things that's interesting is that creators need to get paid, right? There is a friction in the system about like how you get paid and the way you get paid. And we care about the creator economy and the way that they're making money and how to take friction and complexity out of it and how to make transactions more attainable and so they can get back to creating and put more energy into that. So we think of it as a virtuous sort of circle of creators being small businesses, and they're trying to make it in their pursuit of their next steps in their journey. And we're here to help them do that, one step at a time and via the way they get paid. So that's how we're thinking.
No, I think that that's super important. And as a creative, myself, I wouldn't necessarily call myself a creator, it's interesting because it's the biggest thing that you care about as a human in the world, but it's the thing that gets talked the least about. And to your point, is the biggest pain point. And I'm sure we've seen TikToks and tons of creators talking about that process. So with that, would love for you to talk a little bit about what Visa has been, and I know will be continuing to do, to connect to creators in a real way. And again, to your point, make it easier to pay and get paid. If you're willing to talk about some of those programs.
Of course. From a support system, we've got 2 programs that we have, and one is called the Visa Creator Program, and that's geared towards entrepreneurs who are working in art, music, fashion, film, are serious about incorporating NFTs in their business model, or if they just minted NFTs. And I know that's not like the topic du jour, but it's really critical to think about, like, well, how do we help you with that? Because it's all digital currency, and how do we help you there? We also have a Visa Ready commerce program, and this helps creator-centric platform partners like social, video gaming companies, and everything in between, because it's not just, okay, well, it's just the big platforms and it's Visa. There's a lot of technology that comes in between that. We partner with everybody. We're about that, really partnering with an ecosystem to help people get paid. But that helps you with tools and sort of features like creator payouts and subscriptions and other ways to get connected to ecosystem players so you can find a way to get paid. And I think that's great. From a marketing standpoint, we recently did a program in 3 regions, so North America, in the Middle East, and also in Europe around what we called a Get Paid program. And it was matching. It understood that there was this unmet need about, like, I just need some advice, right? If you're on your way to making it, but you just need to get some advice from those who have, how do we create kind of a series of content that helps creators learn about, how to make it? And so we paired rising stars with others who have made it in food, fashion, and what was the last one? Food, fashion, and music.
Yes.
Thank you. And we brought them together to just sort of exchange ideas and help each other kind of understand how to work. We did it across platforms, but what's great about that content is it's accessible to everybody, and you kind of get some good tips and tricks on how to get from one place to another. So we were trying to fill this sort of mentorship gap too that exists. So we do 2 things. We try and create marketing programs with creators that helps them thrive, and we also have real tangible product connections for creators. So we're working on it.
I need to go back and look at some of that content because I could use it myself.
Really good. I know,
And that's one of the things I was going to say that I think is so interesting is the way that you all have been able to take what are truly pretty complex topics, right? When we talk about the creator economy, when we talk about getting paid, when we talk about finances, those are all things that I think people automatically just tune out to because they feel like they're getting lectured to, or they feel like it's too complex to understand. And I think that's something that you and the Visa team have done an extraordinary job of, is taking these things that feel very overwhelming and that people don't want to talk about and breaking them down into really easily accessible, understandable ways and putting them on forums, whether that's TikTok, Instagram, other social media outlets, and make them easily accessible, which I think is so important. With that, I wanted to ask you a little bit about, knowing what you know in your experience with working with creators, what are some of the things that you think the biggest brands, whether in finance or outside of that sector, get wrong about creators and how to talk to and connect to them?
Yeah. I love this question because I think we're all a work in progress. Like, this is about, well, how do you partner with anyone who isn't internal, right? You have your own culture in a company. We do too at Visa. It's actually a really great place to work. So just want to give that a moment of, it is a really great place to collaborate and work with people in a global company. So hats off to Visa from that standpoint. But we have our own culture, right? So if you're saying, hey, listen, I'm going to partner with other people, whether that's creators or even agencies, like, how do you create the best relationships? And I think one of the pieces of advice I'd have for, ourselves at Visa and for any other brand is that don't make this about a transaction. Like, make this about a relationship. Make this about a relationship you have with a creator. Find out what is interesting to them or what they're really, they're very expressive about what they're interested in, but understand their story, understand their steps to making it, really get a feeling for what they're about. And that makes it far easier to create a mutual place of trust and growth for each other. So you're not just transacting for, hey, to talk about my brand or talk about my product or please sell. It's about, what are we doing together overall? I can help you, you can help me. We're in a relationship. And that's where the content really thrives in an authentic space when you're not just transacting, you're partnering.
No, that's really important. And again, I think that's especially important, in the financial sector where it can feel so cold. And I think that's something that you guys have been doing a great job of breaking down the barriers of. So amazing advice for all of the CMOs that are on this call. I know we're going to run out of time quickly, but I did have one last question. Again, in the spirit of you being the first guest of the new year and everybody's intention setting, what do you think are the biggest opportunities for brands to be relevant for creators?
Yeah. This is a recent feeling for me and I've been talking a lot about with my team. I've been talking a lot about with your teams is that I really think that real life events are actually a very interesting space for us to think about from a content standpoint. So I have the, content strategy, development, and distribution. What this means is I care about what we make and how we distribute it as one thing and the strategy around it. And now I'm increasingly thinking about what the opportunity is around an event. Now we're all in real life, or we're mostly back in the office, or there's a lot more travel or this and that. But I think that there's this hybrid of what do you learn in digital, which is great today that we're all learning and talking in digital worlds, but also what do you learn in real life? I think marketers have an amazing opportunity around what kind of content you can create on an event. If you do that purposefully and you think about not only the moment in time and who's there and how to kind of create content with strategy, and then also create an evergreen content strategy from that event, I think you can go places. This is not just events that you make for yourself or industry events, but it's also events you participate in, so they can have all different kinds of flavors. And so I've been thinking a lot about that in 2024 as I think about our calendar ahead. We at Visa are sponsors of the Olympics, which is an enormous event for us. So we're thinking a lot about what happens before that and during, but it's also other places and spaces that we're thinking about in real life. And I think the connection between people is needed.
Oh my God, people are craving that. And I think that's why the Olympics are going to be so big this year, is because it's kind of like that first big event. I don't want to say post-COVID. I don't know when that happened. But the other thing that I just wanted to say to that point, that's just, again, a tip for the other marketers that are watching this. Not only is it a smart use of those dollars and a way to connect to people, it's really important because it also helps you drive down the cost of creative. I know every person listening to this is thinking about, how do I fuel the content machine and how do I continue to build my brand on social? I think one of the things that you guys have done extraordinarily well is use all of your sponsorships and your events not only to showcase creators, but use it as an opportunity to create hundreds, sometimes thousands of pieces of content, in the event of the Olympics, to really fuel your social engine and create more opportunities to connect with them. So just small kudos for you guys.
We're working on it. It's always a work in progress, Maima.
I love it. No, you're doing great. No, thank you so much, Ashley. I don't know if there's any, final thoughts you want to add on just some of the work that you guys have been doing in connecting creators and culture. But again, Visa is one of those beacons, one of the biggest, most prominent brands in the world, and you continue to lead the way here. So we're so honored to have you today, and thank you for being our first guest on the show.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me, Maima. Good to see you. Cheers.
Good to see you too. Fabulous job. Oh my God, what a little love fest over here. This is how we start the year.
Thank you.
Love you both. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Andrea.
Bye.
All right. Next up, we're going to have a conversation with two of my favorite chief brand officers. Let's bring up Miss Mary Kate McGrath.
Hey,
how are you, Ellen?
I love it. What a great convo we just witnessed.
I know. It's juicy stuff. It's January. It's a big year, 2024.
People are ready. People are ready to learn and expand, and what a way to start the year.
Let's go. All right. Well, very excited to have our very dear Osh join us, Chief Brand Officer of Mesa. I didn't realize that Mesa is the world's largest beauty incubator in mass. That's a pretty big statement there. Main portfolio company. And you've got quite the list of responsibilities here: innovation, incubation, brand marketing, integrated marketing, and creative studio. Doesn't sound like there'll be a shortage of conversation in this one.
Certainly not.
Thanks for joining us. I'll leave it up to you guys.
Thanks. Osh, it's so good to see you again. How are you, my dear?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, we're so happy. This is such a treat. I think Andrea nailed it. You oversee so many brands at Mesa, and I think that people know those brands individually, but not maybe that they're under one roof. Will you orient us again with the brands that are at Mesa and your role at the company?
Yes, absolutely. I do love to say I never have a dull moment. There's every part of my brain that's functioning in different capacities. So as Andrea already mentioned, all consumer touch points reporting to me. So whether that is any product that we are developing, whether that's a new brand, new product innovation, creative studio who brings beautiful ideas to life, all the brand marketing efforts, integrated marketing, press, social, influencer, and then marketing operations. So all of it. I love it because it just helps me cut out the politics, the bullshit. Everybody's in it together. We have a disagreement, we powwow together. My 5 directors, we come together and we solve problems and we move on. That's the best thing about having such a vast responsibility. You're able to cut through the crap pretty quickly versus having to politically navigate a lot, and I'm sure a lot of us have to deal with it.
I can say it myself.
And then the brands that we have is Kristen S. Hair care. It's a huge brand at Target and now nationally available. We have Heritage, which is a brand that we've created with Mindy McKnight, who is the #1 YouTuber mom. We have a brand with her daughters, ITK, but also Drew Barrymore's makeup brand, Flower Beauty, Taraji P. Henson's brand, TPH Hair Care, being Frenchie, which is a brand that we just launched with Ashley Tisdale, which to a huge success at Target. And then also lastly, Finery and Cozy Place, which are 2 homegrown fragrance brands that we have. And this is not to mention the private label business that we do, but this is, I think, plenty for us to ground us.
It's incredible. And your career has been highlighted by successes across category in beauty. And it's just such an honor to have you. Is there a shared approach to using and employing creators at Mesa?
I would love to say yes. So I think the science of it is very similar, right? Like how are we going to measure success? How are we going to create KPIs and ROI? And like, I think even in the previous conversation, they were talking about that when you create your earned media and creator-led marketing, your overall paid performance improves because people are talking about you. You're just a more relevant brand, right? So in that, the science of it, very similar in terms of the team structures that support it, very similar. In terms of the creator selection, very different.
Yeah.
Right. Like every brand has such a unique point of view in how they want to operate it. And we don't get in the way because relevance and cultural fit is so important, because otherwise you're micromanaging and fine-tuning the content that comes to you. It never meets your expectations, versus you kind of just have to loosen the reins a little bit. It's very uncomfortable as a brand owner. You kind of just have to let go a little bit and let the brand and the creators do their thing.
Which is hard, right? I mean, because you're kind of saying this is our, we talk about this a lot, right? That decisions shouldn't be left in the boardroom. And that happens, right? Like you've made this product and then you put it out into the world and someone else either loves it and or hates it. Obviously, if you're employing creators, hopefully it becomes a nice flywheel. But tell us about how you think about that, or you talk a lot about culture in the company. How do the brands think about that and release that kind of onus over to the creator?
Right. I think overall, just taking a step back in the day, and we were joking about it years ago, creating a TV ad and 2 print commercials was it, right? And
1 year, 1 TVC.
1 year, 1 TVC, that was exactly my life. And it just, brands controlled the narrative, and it was a one-way communication, and we were talking at the consumer. And over the years, that pendulum swung, and then pendulum became the influencer-led sort of model, and that's where it swung. And I firmly believe that it's going to swing again, and it's going to go into the user-generated content space, right? So the user space. So where the brands used to be in charge, now consumers are in charge, and it isn't just stating the true fact, a truism fact. It is the actual truth of just what's happening. So I think as a brand manager, the only thing you can do to get in the way of the success of your brand is to get yourself in the way of the brand and the creator, right? So I think just knowing that your brand no longer is a one-way communication. It no longer is what you're telling the consumer. It is a sum total of the content you put out there and the creators who speak of you, right? So the goal that you should have is that how sharply defined have you created a brand? How sharply have you selected your influencers? Therefore, the communication that they're having about your brand actually fits into the larger picture for you.
I love it. So let's talk more about that sum total of that content that you described. which I think is so relevant to the conversation today. You recently had an incredible moment on TikTok. You and I are huge fans of the platform.
Yeah.
Walk us through what happened and any learnings or insights for the mass audience that's here today on what happens when a creator takes hold of your brand or your product and all things go as you want them to go, but what exactly happens inside your office and outside?
No, absolutely. So number one thing, and it was we started the year with being Frenchy going viral with one such content piece, and it was just such an exciting moment. You're starting the year, you're just settling in, and boom, guns a viral moment, and it was like, yes, exciting. We're going to go in front of the board and we can talk about it, and actually you saw the impact of that on revenue as well. Literally 2 weeks in a row, you saw greater than your typical run rates in terms of growth rates, right? So you see a direct linkage and gives you more confidence that what you're doing is actually working. So what happened was we, of course, as part of our mailing list, our team sent out product, but of course, kudos to them for finding the list of creators that were relevant, right? And one of the influencers created the content piece, and she happened to be a huge fan of Ashley Tisdale and sort of grew up with her, and creates a content piece and says, I'm sure I didn't know this was Ashley Tisdale's brand, but hey, you are. And she comments on the box and everything. And she's like, of course, Ashley doesn't know me. So thank you to the PR team. Right. And so we caught on to that. We're like, you know what? Won't it be so nice that actually we surprise her that actually Ashley does know her? Right. So what we did was the team was on top of it, so we quickly saw that this was taking traction. So we're like, okay, let's now work this algorithm, right? Like let it go viral. We quickly got in touch with Ashley. Ashley didn't waste a minute. She quickly created a stitch with that creator. And suddenly she had just posted 2 videos, and now came a 3rd video, her crying hysterically that Ashley had created a video with her and was noticing the whole thing. And Ashley posted on her channels too. And she, of course, has a huge followership. In the course of 48 hours, I think we had generated 4 million views, and over 500,000 likes. And we're still counting, because then we decided to boost the content, pay the influencer some usage rights, boost the content, and really give it further legs, because guess what? Relevant content performs an algorithm. So when you boost an ad like that, is far more successful than a paid campaign salesy brand ad, So great example of that. And I hope that we have many more moments of it and continue to see that revenue impact,
That's obviously the reactive, right? That's obviously you've seeded it, but that's the reactive. Tell us your philosophy on the proactive. When you look at your brands and your brand leads, how's the team thinking about using creators, using the platforms? Like, what are some, like, for the next year ahead, what are some headlines that they're kind of working under, the auspices that they're working under that they want to see creators with their brands?
Right. Are you talking more from a proactive, like outreach?
Proactive, yeah. I mean, the Ashley story is amazing, and it's funny. I went back in and looked at a bunch of the TikToks, and Ashley's commenting left and right? And we know that so much of the content happens in the comment section. But tell us more, like, proactively, how are you thinking about employing creators?
Yeah. No, I think so. There's multiple layers to it, right? So first layer is truly the founder led. So several of our brands, not all of our brands, like Finery is a brand that we have, it's not founder led, but several of our brands sort of start with founder at the peak of it, because they are almost the mouthpiece of the content that's been created, right? Now, if I were to really pull apart my 2 very large brands, Kristen S and Heritage, for instance, right? Kristen S, very it girl brand, the aesthetic of it, it's beautiful blush pink, it stands out, it's still the only female hairdresser led brand that's out there in mass categories, which still surprises me, but hey, I'll take the differentiator. Yeah, right. But there, when we think about how we're building that pyramid, it's very much who are those it girl influencer consumers who are also lifestyle. They transcend into makeup, they transcend into hair, because hair is such a big part of how you look, and it's hairdresser equity. So not only that we need to build out the hairdresser equity, not only that, because Kristen has started off her career as a celebrity hairstylist. So do we need to have a presence in the red carpet? Do we need to partner with Glam Squad and be in those really affluent consumers' households and giving those treatments and services, right? And then on top of that, how do you build the army of micros and nanos? And then on top of that, hey, can we do something on TikTok Shop and make it be something relevant, right? It's a very different go-to-market compared to Heritage. The founder is Mindy McKnight. She is a very well-loved mom on YouTube. She started her career creating hairstyles for her girls, right? good old American amazing values, right? So the way we build her pyramid and amplify her voice is very different. The influencers that we target are very different. We look at more white space American moments, like Mama Rush is a really relevant moment for her, right? And it's such a specific moment, but it's very resonant to her target audience and her community, right? So as you can already see proactively, just same team, right? Very similar KPIs, but performing very differently in who they outreach.
Yeah. So again, as you said before, the science is similar. You said something interesting when we've caught up before about how it is science, but then you have to remember the human story of creating on the platforms. What do you mean by that?
It's all of it is just art and science, right? Like I could tell you scientifically what leads to a viral moment, right? But can I recreate that viral moment because I know the science? A hard no, right? It boils down to content, it boils down to relevance. And even as we find our founder partners, and it's not something that I manage, we have a very strong team who does that. It's not just anybody with a huge following can be a founder of a brand. There's a specific art and science that goes into, of course, the science is your followerships, your engagement, and we're watching you, the content you're creating, etc. But the art of it is, are you going to have the skill sets of a founder? Are you going to understand what it is to be an entrepreneur? Are you going to be able to work hard in the way that it would need for you to build this brand from scratch and work hard on it, right? Like it's that piece I can't nail for you. That's just art. And that's where the more you do it, the more you experiment, the better it gets.
In the last conversation, I think a good point was we often talk about what we're doing in our own teams, what we're doing and that we're seeing success with. Where do you see, and please no specifics at all, but where do you see brands take a wrong turn with creators especially?
I think when it's inauthentic. I honestly mean that. You're just partnering with the person just because you think they have the followership and that's it. And in the end, you can pay your way through anything in the world of marketing, right? Like anything can be bought with money. But what can't be bought with money is relevance and authenticity and the type of content you put out there. And I think that's where a lot of the missteps happen for brands, when you don't truly know your target audience and you make some wrong calls in who you pick.
You've said before in other interviews, you've had, Andre, you're peeping out.
I'm having too much fun.
I'm so much more than good.
I know.
She's such a wealth. This could be a whole introduction to marketing, introduction to creators.
I think that's right. I think we're going to have our own episode with Osh.
Yes.
What do you think?
I love
it. Would love that. Anything for you guys.
Oh my goodness. Well, I hate to disrupt it, but love to you both. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Andrea.
All right. Next up, let's bring up Avery Akanini.
Wow.
Avery is our new global CMO. I am so excited to bring you up, Avery, and you're not new to Vayner, that's for sure.
No, but got a big new shoes to fill with taking on your role, Andrea, as you catapult into something amazing, outstanding that I know everybody in this audience will be tuning in to see what happens next.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Yeah, Avery she stood up our Asia Pacific region, which is the fastest growing, and then went on to be president of Vayner 3. So so excited to see where you take us from here. But first, we have a very important conversation today with Alex Morrison, who is the CMO of PearPop. And I'm going to let you guys share a little bit more about what PearPop is. This is the perfect show for you. I'm very excited to hear what you have to say.
All right. Thank you so much, Andrea. And Alex, thank you for joining us and for sharing your insights on what you all are building at PearPop and how you're helping both creators and brands and being that sort of pair matching in the middle. So can you tell us in the Marketing for the Now audience a little bit about yourself and a little bit about PearPop?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thanks for having me on. And, I think it's been tuning in so far. There's a lot of amazing themes we're hearing already, I think, in the conversation. So you're going to hear a few more of those things drilled home in our conversation, I have a feeling. So PearPop, we're the leading creator collaboration platform. We help brands unlock creator collaboration at scale. What you've been hearing from a lot of the marketers that have been on so far is it's really important to get that match just perfect. It's really a brand alignment between a brand and a creator. And what we help brands unlock is the brand right collaborations at scale. So doing it again and again, because the right partnership with a creator might last one post, it might last a month, it might last a year, but continually discovering and activating the right creators and learning from what works in the market is something that we really help brands accomplish. One thing that's really important to us too is that we're a creator-first company. So our mission first and foremost is to help creators earn a living doing what they love. And that means that we've built the largest community of creators, coming up on 250,000 creators who are our users. And so for a brand marketer or digital marketer, what that means is you can tap into our community in a very turnkey way. And so we're reducing a lot of the friction of finding and activating the right creators. And that's led to a lot of really exciting growth for us. We're only a 3-year-old company. And in that time, we've grown tremendously, and lots more to come. It feels like a big year ahead here in 2024 for sure.
Yeah, it's the year of the creator economy, and it's been amazing to hear sort of Ashley's perspective and the creators get paid campaign, and also what they're doing in the beauty industry with Osh. And you're kind of in the middle of all of these, right? You're across multiple different verticals, and both on the creator side and on the brand side. And in 3 years, you all have catapulted. I recently joined your advisory board, and I've been really enjoying learning a little bit more because you all have been on this rocket ship. So what's the secret? Like, how is PearPop different than the many other sort of creator matching tools that exist out there?
I mean, I think it starts with the fact that we are creator first. So I think a lot of marketers really want that disintermediated access to the right creators for their brand. So the fact that we have creators swimming around at PearPop is a real advantage, I think, for us. And really for us, it's all about helping brands win with creators and creators win with brands. If either of those things isn't true, it's really not a sustainable arrangement, right? No one's trying to take advantage of anyone here. And so the secret, I guess, if there is one, is our dynamic matching algorithm that really is pairing the right brands and creators at scale, as I mentioned. So really looking beyond kind of surface level metrics like follower count, engagement rate, things that anyone can see with the naked eye,
right,
and really get a lot deeper into the characteristics that make a creator a great fit for a brand and a brand a great fit for that creator. And what that enables us to do, and I think one of the things that, there are probably 2 or 3 things that brands say after they've partnered with us that are very different about the PearPop experience. The first is really getting that brand alignment right again and again and again, because our matching algorithm is so finely tuned. The second is reducing friction. So like we all know, like creators, they're real living, breathing people. They don't just stay put. It's not a pixel,
Sometimes I feel like there's a lot of AI creators these days, Alex.
That's increasingly true. We could talk about that for a whole session, but I mean, the fact of the matter is, ultimately there's a lot of friction in the creator space. And I think it's actually kept it from growing in the past, where it's like, well, there are a lot of things I could do with my time and with my marketing budget. This just feels really like sometimes you can feel the gears grinding when you're trying to get the right creators, activate them, understand what performance is going to look like in any meaningful way. And so one of the big things that, a lot of our brand partners will say after, let's say they finished a program with us is, man, that really actually felt very smooth. And part of the reason is because we're using our technology and our platform to put the two sides together and to make that interaction really, really, easy for everybody. And then the third piece is knowing what's going to happen. I think a lot of times with creators in terms of business outcomes, right? And so I think a lot of times with creators, you're kind of taking a bet, right? You kind of feel like, well, I've done all my desk research. I love this person's feed. They feel like a really great alignment. But what's going to happen? Beyond sort of upper funnel metrics like impressions, engagements, things like that. I think a lot of marketers now are being gold on actual business performance. And so being able to design programs that don't just speak kind of like the PR language, but speak business and be able to design programs that really move the business predictably, like call it beforehand, right? Call your shot. It's really kind of important. And so we help marketers really think through how to design these successful programs that move the needle for them, whatever that looks like. It could be purely brand, or it could be, something more lower funnel.
Accountable to business results. We must be at a Gary Vaynerchuk event because this is the thing that he talks about all day, every day. But Alex, it sounds like your matching algorithm has some like really interesting characteristics. I've got to ask, how is AI in the mix? Are you all, developing things that take advantage of sort of AI capabilities?
AI in the creator economy is probably one of the best topics we could be talking about.
2 buzzwords together, unifying
AI
to
creators,
the next
boom,
level.
right? So definitely. So we are, but creators are too. So I mean, you mentioned just before we dive into the PearPop side of this, There are AI creators, more and more of them. There was, pretty widely circulated article about a Spanish modeling agency that created their own AI creator to basically show up for gigs because they were having trouble getting real people to show up for gigs. So like this is a new thing that we're going to see.
I want to add on one thing there because I think this is really interesting. Some brands who are listening to this might remember like Lil Michaela. Some brands who are international might, remember Ima, this virtual influencer in Japan who's been big for many years. I remember like 5 years ago we did a shoot with Ima in Japan, and they kind of went away for a little while. Like Lil Michaela was like a big thing for a bit there, and now it has come back in such a big way, at least from our perspective.
Oh, big time, big time. And if you even look at it, in terms of real human creators, I mean, adoption of AI as part of the creative process is, off the charts. I mean, some recent surveys have said that as many as 3/4 of creators are using AI to enhance their creation process, whether it's coming up with content ideas in the process itself. So AI and creators, it's happening, right? And here at PearPop, the way we look at it is AI is uniquely great at helping us with kind of these large data sets, right? And so when we're thinking about pairing the right creators and brands at scale, not only can we ingest a huge amount of data, because we have both first-party data and third-party data on creators and the brands that we work with. And so we're able to make much better recommendations as a result of machine learning and AI. But then the more at-bats, right, the more campaigns we run, the smarter our system gets. And the more for each individual brand, we're able to say, look, these are the creators who worked for you last time. Now let's start thinking about adding those folks to a roster. We'll start making those recommendations dynamically. And a lot of that is made smarter and faster by AI. So absolutely. And it's really, if you think about some of the core blockers that have kept the creator economy from really reaching full growth potential, and I think a lot of these are going away, by the way. AI is poised to really remove a lot of those pain points.
Amazing. Alex, last question for you, and we'll try to cut this to 1 minute because I know we've had a long episode. Can you tell us like a campaign that you all are really proud of that you've recently done, or a piece of work that you think really speaks to how PearPop helps unlock, creators and culture?
Totally. I mean, there's so many that we could probably talk about, but one that I really like is something that we were fortunate to be involved with last year for Chipotle. And maybe anyone listening heard about this Keith Lee and Alexis Frost. It kind of happened organically on TikTok. And this is kind of the beautiful thing about creators is sort of by listening to culture, seeing what's really happening and really is relevant to people. Chipotle jumped on what was basically a food hack on TikTok. Prominent food creators were creating these sort of like quesadillas with fajita vegetables in them and giving it a perfect 10 score, all this kind of stuff. And rather than sit idly by, Chipotle actually created this as a menu item that was available on a limited basis. And then we used creators to promote this limited edition menu item, which was only available through the app. And what ended up happening was we created this sort of surround sound of creator voices to promote this item. So it was kind of this full circle thing where it was born from creators, promoted by creators, and ultimately what ended up happening was it was the best digital sales weekend for Chipotle of all time. They had the most app downloads they've ever seen. So for anyone who thinks that creators cannot drive hard business results, think again, right? They definitely can. It's all about wiring it up the right way and tying it into really things that are happening in culture and driving that relevance. So I think that was a nice example of how you can really hone in on something that's happening and put some gasoline on it with creators and drive some real impact.
It's a theme that we're hearing across a lot of these. Alex, thank you so much for joining us, for sharing your insights, and for anyone listening who's looking for a tool to help PearPop, check it out.
You got it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
You both. Thanks for joining. All right, let's bring up Chris Anthony, our Chief Revenue Officer of Gallery Media Group. Chris, how are you?
Andrea, how are you?
You're trying to stay warm and snuggly like I am.
I mean, I need that fur around your neck. It's so cool.
So true. Well, we're going to create some fire here. We've got Andre Branch joining us, SVP and GM of Mac, one of my favorite brands from Estee Lauder. And Andre he's hosted and he's held a number of different leadership roles at great companies, including L'Oreal, Nature's Bounty, and Diageo, and more. I'm very excited to reunite you guys and have an exciting conversation today. Take it away.
Amazing. Andre, good to see you.
Great to see you again, Chris. How's everything?
It's good, besides the frigid cold temperatures here, but excited about this topic. And it feels like Mac is reflective of some of the good conversation that we've had to date. So excited to dig in with you.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Awesome. But yeah, I think, you guys have such a storied legacy. I think that to me, culture and sort of what you guys had built the brand on from the inception is so reflective around so many great topics, from inclusivity and authenticity. But let's dig in. Some of the topics and sort of how we really understand what culture is happening from a creator standpoint is really done on the platforms these days, right? Starting off with TikTok is such a core platform, I think, to everyone's strategies. How are you thinking about that platform? I know we're going to talk a little bit later about some specific collaborations as well, but talk a little about how TikTok fits into what you're thinking about the brand from a culture and creator lens.
Yeah, of course. Well, I would say, first of all, just digital expansion really allows us to bring to life what makes Mac to consumers in new and innovative ways. And on social, we're constantly building community. We launched a dedicated TikTok and Instagram pages for the US, and that's separate from our global channels because we wanted to engage specifically with the consumers here. And we've invested a lot in influencer partnerships, building relationships with creators who are influencing culture. Our artists, many of whom are influencer in their own right, have all been trained and always encouraged to have a social presence. So you can learn from them as well online, not just in the store. Looking at TikTok specifically, it's where Gen Z and millennials are, which really makes it table stakes for Mac to play. We log hours on the platform daily and always in close contact with our team at TikTok, just to make sure that we're spotting the trends, we're jumping in on the right ones at the right time. As well as just upskilling our teams just to make sure they've got best practices in place. I'll tell you about an example on TikTok that we use to connect to our younger fans during National Lipstick Day. So anyone watching lip content on TikTok will always see Mac in a lip combo, whether it's a lipstick or a pencil or a gloss. Our lip products are really used by a lot of creators in their content. So we tapped into this trend and partnered with 3 creators that created their own Mac lip combos that we sold in all of our direct-to-consumer channels for National Lipstick Day. Our partners were Jodie Woods, we had Cindy Kimberly, we had Alyssa Ashley, all of whom dreamed up their own favorite lip combos using Mac. And the response was just overwhelming. It was amazing. We saw creators, artists, consumers, all running really to buy that creator lip combo set. And they created a lot of content for us, replicating it on TikTok. And during this time, we saw our EMV really jump. It increased. We were number 5 and number 3 in EMV, according to Tribe, in July and August, respectively, when the campaign was in the market. So really, really great campaign for us. And then beyond seeing the buzz, the program actually drove a lot of new buyers to Mac. So it was really a success all around. So, we reach our creators also responding in real time. Late last year, Priyad came on our radar. I don't know if you know him, but he's got these devotees called Pookie Nation. And he started out making videos from his car. In 4 weeks, he grew from like 30,000 to 4 million followers. Really amazing. And fans really embraced his demeanor and loved his authenticity. And he built a personal connection with them. So we reached out to him. He thought it'd be a great partner. Put Mac on his radar with its growing fan base. And he had so many ideas. We landed on this very simple creative concept to tell the world that Pookie is actually a Mac girl. So he filmed some things in store. He attempts to go on this shopping spree for Pookie at Mac, picking up things, asking her about what she thinks, and highlighting all the things that Gen Z and TikTok, Gen Z consumers love for us and the TikTok faves. And they had 1.6 million views on the video, which is incredible. So, TikTok is an amazing platform for us. It's possible to do a lot there. You just really need to have your ear to the ground and just know when to jump in. That's what I would tell you.
Well, that's such good examples of collaborations and spotting and sort of building the deeper relationships with some of those collaborators you mentioned. I think even the point of talking about the artists and sort of like them being an influencer in their own right and has been such core to the brand. So true. And the whole community aspect is such an interesting thing to think about. Yeah. When you think about a lot of this overall, like how we move through this world of fast moving culture and social and TikTok and everything's changing constantly for these younger generations that are driving so much of culture. What does agility mean to you and sort of how do you move quickly? And that could be whether that's externally to make this stuff happen or whether it's internally with your team? How do you think about just moving quickly in order to bring all this to life, which is definitely not a easy task to accomplish?
Yeah, not easy at all. I mean, Mac is a true culture brand, and to really have that title, you have to move quickly. We really pride ourselves for not only capturing the moment or the momentum on rising trends, but also just being trendsetters ourselves. So, one day we're wearing latte makeup, and then the next day there's sugar plum fairy makeup. Really get after these things, because to be successful today, we recognize that you really need to be able to move with speed. And that's where Mac Trend comes into place for us. So our brand is really the ultimate color authority, with really an array of products to drive trends. And trends no longer move through this biannual fashion calendar, right? It used to be Fashion Week driven. Now trends are really moving a mile a minute thanks to social media. And our agile approach really is to meet consumers at their pace. And that starts with our global trend team. They source trends through a combination of math and magic, leaning on social and search tools, as well as inputs from our extensive relationships in fashion and film, music, editorial. We've got artists all over the world, so we're constantly getting data and input that we understand. We understand when something's really bubbling up. And with their help, for example, we predicted the soft goth trend that really took off last year. Soft goth glamour was on the summer 23 runways and at the 2022 Met Gala. And shortly after that, the Netflix show Wednesday launched, and that was a breakout hit. And we supported the makeup lead on the show, who really spoke about creating this soft goth look for the Wednesday character using MAC lip pencil and night moth. Fans jumped in, recreating the looks, which really spiked sales, online searches, and in-store requests for the product. And so we quickly mobilized our artist community to demonstrate how to achieve that trend across social and store. So we have a system set up that's very, very reactive. And being MAC and being the #1 prestige beauty brand, we're able to really leverage our synergy and our scale to take advantage of those moments.
I love that. The math and the magic, such a great way to look at it. And I think ways that you guys have reacted and been able to amplify with some of those examples is super smart. Yeah. Talk a little bit about, when I think of MAC in the beginning, you guys always represented diversity and inclusivity. I think before the world woke up and realized that should just be the norm in what was happening with marketers. And how do you balance really like authenticity and your constant commitment to diversity with also, chasing relevance within the ever world of culture today? How do you balance sort of those two truisms, knowing that that's been such a core to the inception of MAC?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I would say, like every aspect of our brand, our journey really starts with the consumer. MAC has always had a very loyal consumer base. The brand's legacy of inclusivity was key to this. And in fact, many diverse consumers can trace their first beauty experiences back to MAC. So as our consumers evolve and new generations are really introduced, such as Gen Z or millennials, our brand really has to stay constantly tapped into what those consumers want and what they need. And we really love partnering with culturally relevant voices who help us drive those conversations and trends larger than beauty. And with the rise of TikTok, anyone can really be a creator because anyone can find viral success. But what we look for is something far more important when creating our brand building relationships. And what's important to MAC, as you mentioned, are three things. One is alignment with the brand values, right? So we really honor diversity, individuality, and self-expression above all else. And we believe everyone should be free to use makeup to tap into their authentic identities. We're committed to creating a welcoming community on social and ensuring diverse representation. And so we do that. We do that with the folks that we work with. We have our MAC crew, for example, which is an ensemble cast of always-on social creators who fully embody those values while also reflecting what the consumers are trying to achieve or want in a particular launch or initiative. So that works for us. I think the other thing that's important is creativity and quality of content. The content quality always needs to be there to reflection of the brand. We always think, if I were a consumer watching this, what would I think? Would it resonate with me? And our influencer team watches hours of content a day to really scout great creators. And then you need to trust the creators to be the experts, right? And they're creative. Giving up total creative control may seem a bit uneasy for some, but we know that our creators know the brand, and that comes with just a lot of research. But by investing in creators who really understand the Mac brand, the creative process has been, for us, very seamless, and the end results have been very, very strong. I think the last thing I would say is, people really need to be a lover and a user of Mac. Authenticity is an influencer buzzword because audiences have really become much more discerning with the marketing being so saturated, and they value content that they feel is genuine, that's transparent, that's really relevant to them. And consumers like Gen Z really want content that feels more organic, which means that ads are more integrated into the content that speaks to them as opposed to just a hard marketing sell. So we really sharpen our focus on aligning with creators who use Mac or some kind of way have a natural connection to the brand. And this really also extends to the creators who will continue to support the brand organically over time, even after the paid partnership ends. So this for us is a relationship that feels much more holistic.
I love that. And I think that's such a great takeaway in the sense that if you pick and source the right people for the brand, the trust is easy to have because those people are innately already trusting you guys. So great. Congrats on all the amazing work. And excited to see all the future work that Mac and your team puts out.
Awesome.
Yeah,
great
lots
to talk
of
to you.
hands in the chat there. Thank you so much, Andre.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andre.
Cheers. Stay warm. All right, we're down to our last conversation. Last but not least, we can bring Avery back up. And we're going to bring Jeff from Dell, who is live from Seattle, where apparently the power has completely gone out. But that's not stopping Jeff. Something to be said about him. I hope you're doing okay, Jeff. Is everything okay out there?
I am. Yeah. Thanks for having me today. Good to see you both.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, we're thrilled to have you. Jeff is the Senior Director of Digital Marketing at Dell. And what I love is he's not only immersed in B2B marketing and all things tech and media, but he is a part of pop culture. So he's a creator and a DJ and an artist himself. So I think there's going to be a lot of juicy stuff coming out of this conversation. I will leave it to the two of you.
Amazing. Thanks, Andre and Jeff. Really appreciate you joining. Come hell or high water or no power, here you are. So we're so pumped to have you join Marketing for the Now today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Avery.
Awesome. So Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? As Andre said, you're a creator, you're a marketer. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do at Dell.
Yeah, I've been at Dell now about the last year and a half, Senior Director of digital marketing, leading a team in terms of, how to grow the brand, how to grow sort of different solution areas, product areas. Also the company, if you think about it, Dell's 40 years old this year. It was founded in 1984. We still have a CEO founder, Michael Dell, still, involved in the day-to-day. So that's sort of a rarity out there. So I think that's been quite interesting. Prior to Dell, spent almost a decade at Microsoft, and then spent a long time in sort of the New York agency world, Ogilvy, 360i, a lot of boutique shops. It's actually how I sort of discovered Gary Vee way back in the day, is working sort of in the early 2000s in sort of the boutique world.
Cool. And in your day-to-day life now, in a world where we're sort of constantly adapting to new trends and platforms, what is Dell doing to stay relevant after 40 years? In my mind, I will never forget the line, like, dude, I'm getting a Dell, that came out like when I was going to college, I think. But like, what are you all doing these days, to keep at the pulse of culture?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is, what the company now does, it's much more diversified. It's, I think sometimes it's hard to explain when you sort of sit down with others and you're like, hey, we're more than just in the PC world. I mean, we're heavily involved, I think, in sort of data protection, storage, servers, infrastructure, things that actually enable businesses to operate, whether you're a mid-sized business or an enterprise business. So I think those are areas that are interesting that we like to talk about. But if, of course, we still have sort of our entire, PC business that's highly relevant. And I think the interesting thing there is, becoming a little bit more simplified in terms of how to define what are, what enables people to do their sort of most important work, whether they're a creator themselves or they're someone that works for a large corporation.
And at Dell, you all have worked with so many different creators over the years. Can you talk a little bit about your approach there and your approach to sort of prioritizing existing customers and users versus just folks with a big following?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing there is, finding and working with people who are fans of the brand. So not
Right.
just going out and doing, a deal or an endorsement, which I think a lot of other companies do, where it's like, hey, who's the most popular or who can we tap into to extend our brand? I think the approach has been, hey, who uses our brand because they get us? And then
Right.
how do we, tap into that? I think the other thing that's interesting, and it's an area to watch is, last year we took, a lot of the creators that work with us to our proprietary events. So we had them there in person where audiences could talk to them, ask them questions, et cetera. And I think that IRL movement that we're going to see this year, you're going to see more of that. So not just sort of creators online, but how do you take them to these in-person events? And then I think the other thing that's been interesting with working with, creators as well is, being humble in the sense of, hey, how do we feature you in our content beyond just you making content for us? So you're sort of seeing this conjoint effect, Avery, where brands want a credibility factor. So they're not afraid to say, hey, let's actually have this person in our content as well as them making content for us. Then that way, when a user, whether they're following us on, one platform or they're sort of following a creator on the platform, they're sort of seeing these similar messages of empowerment from the brand, which I think goes a long way.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. It's Super Bowl season, so I'm thinking back to like 4 or 5 years ago, and we actually put a lot of influencers in a Sabra hummus commercial, including Charlie D'Amelio before she was Charlie D'Amelio today. And that was a very new, crazy approach at the
Yes.
time. And now to your point, this is actually something that so many brands are doing is taking these, born on social media stars and putting them across other pieces of content.
Yeah,
So I'd love to know.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's funny you bring that up because I think that was highly innovative. And I think you're going to see in this Super Bowl round, I'm going to make a, sort of a,
Give us a hot take.
I do think you'll see a lot of ads during the Super Bowl with a lot of creators because I think it's mainstreamed now. I think what you did years ago was highly innovative. And that was sort of scary for a lot of companies. Like, wait, we don't want to feature these people who are only, popular online. But now most people have someone that they follow online and that, they feel like they know those people. And so I think we're going to see a lot of that in, Super Bowl ads, and that'll open up the gateway as well. If that works, you'll see those ads rerun at the Olympics or Copa America. There's a lot of big events this year. So I think this is new territory where instead of the celebrity athletic endorsements, we're now seeing creator endorsements sort of become mainstreamed.
Yeah, it's really like blurring the lines of like, what is a celebrity? Is a celebrity just born in Hollywood, or can they be born on social media and have the same amount of, star power? Because I think that like redefinition of celebrities is happening right in front of our eyes right now, because a lot of the biggest celebrities are the biggest creators and vice versa. But I want to double down on one really interesting point you made around bringing your creators to different places. So almost like using events as a place to generate content. I'd love to hear more about how you all are thinking about that at Dell.
Yeah, I think the big one, we have a proprietary event. It's our largest event of the year. It takes place in May in Vegas, which is Dell Technology World. That's a big one that we are always going to bring creators to, not only to speak to audiences, but to create content, because that's, a great place to do it. I think a lot of third-party events that will be, big sponsor of will also look to do that as well. Mobile World Congress, a number of things that are sort of on the industry calendar. And I think those are things that in the past you would go as a company and say, all right, we're going to speak on stage. Maybe we'll have a keynote. But now, Avery, I think a lot of companies have been smart the past couple of years of saying, wait a minute, this is an entire opportunity for us to create some content. The content may come out, while you're there, or maybe it comes out a week later because it's still relevant and on top of mind for a lot of people. I mean, I saw so much this year from creators during CES. In the past, I remember 5 years ago being the one sort of creator at Vegas that was sort of creating content, and everyone looked at me like, what are you doing? Now I didn't go this year, but I had heard from many creators basically took over the entire event, and we're just making content on the floor and sort of releasing that in real time.
100%. And that also really helps tell the story of what's happening at CES for the people who are there. Some people are there in Vegas, but like the vast majority are not. And they might be interested in sort of those highlights and amplifying a message, especially if a brand has invested significantly in having a big presence. So I'd love to know a little bit, some of you, like your favorite creator partnerships, something that stands out to you maybe in the last few months or the last year that you saw and you were like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I think, big one is that we've worked a lot with is Corporate Natalie. Good sense of humor, not taking
Love
yourself
her.
too seriously, I think is really important. Being able to laugh at yourself. We worked with a creator called Wawa Gatharu, a little bit smaller, but really into sort of the running a smaller business. Basically a female entrepreneur. I think these are people who, when you meet them, you're like, hey, I get so many ideas from like watching your content. That sort of that's sort of what our brand is about, and is sort of motivation and empowerment, allowing, humanity to really unlock themselves using technology. So I think that's a big thing too, in terms of how brands go and find, their sort of exclusive or non-exclusive deals with creators is like, are they an extension of your brand? Do they really sort of, walk the line of your brand? If they do, those are great creators to do deals with.
I love Corporate Natalie so much. She reminds me of myself when I lived in San Francisco many years ago, just like her whole vibe and lifestyle. I just like personally resonate with that so much. And I love the work she's done for you all and SoFi and some other partners. I know we're running tight on time here. So Jeff, in our last minute, I'd love to hear, where is Dell going for 2024? Give us a sneak peek of some of the things that you're excited about.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that I'm excited about just is the fact that, creators aren't going to supplement creative directors. I think, those who don't have large egos realize creators play like a role now. I think, I want to sort of see more from creators in terms of, hey, how do you influence what our larger creative is out there that we do? And I think, we're maybe setting ourselves up for 2025, a year from now, where, you have someone who's a chief creator officer at the company, that, they're not a full-time employee, but they're really sort of tied in with everything that the brand does. And they're really sort of helping implement a lot of creative direction. And again, Avery, this isn't new. If we look at, some of the bigger celebrities who were named creative directors in the past, that was a common thing with brands. Right. Now, what I think we'll see is, instead of, a larger celebrity who's the creative director, you'll really have someone who's more of a popular creator who becomes sort of like a chief creator officer. That's sort of my hope on how we unlock the best creativity. I think the other area though too is, how are we going to use some of our own employees who are quite big subject matter experts? Right. How do they become interesting and unique in this world? I think a lot of companies sort of shy away from that, except some of the more progressive ones who realize, wait a minute, these are great evangelists, good ambassadors. They make really interesting content. Why don't we unlock their, potential to do more of this? So I think you're going to see a little bit more of that, which, takes over from what companies had done in the past, which is, hey, we have evangelists on staff, but they would go out and talk at events. We have much more scale now. You don't need those people necessarily to do that. They could make things and release them daily, weekly, etc., and have just as much impact on a business now.
Amazing. I love how you're kind of echoing some of what Andre shared as well, that your employees can be your best advocates and use them for social media content creation as well, whether you're in cosmetics or you're in computers. So Jeff, Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights.
Thank you.
That was fantastic, you guys. I love that so much, that conclusion. All right. Well, the first episode is wrapped up. We'll call it a wrap for January. Avery, you're going to be killing it with the next one that's coming up on February 7th at 12 noon Eastern. Can't thank our community enough. We've had 47 episodes, hard to believe, 415 speakers so far, and we'd love to hear from you what you'd like to hear next. So Avery, happy to be handing off that baton.
Baton is handed. Thank you, Andrea, and everybody give a huge.
I hope to join on the show in different capacities in the future.
Absolutely. Everybody give it up for Andrea. Thank you for tuning in for Marketing for the Now, and we will see y'all on February 7th.